What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Reality Kingdom, where we put the real in reality or whatever, period. I'm your host, Pharaoh, and we're joined by the wonderful Joseph from Big Brother 26. Joseph, how are you doing, man?
I'm good, man. How about you?
I'm doing good. I'm having a good time.
Yeah.
Just,
It's your
just
birthday today, right?
it's my birthday today, so I'm
Nice.
getting a little excited. I'm a little happy.
Very cool.
Yes, but I wanted to ask you straight off the
Hmm.
bat
Yep.
because you just left the Big Brother, or you just got off the Big Brother experience. And
Yeah.
I want to ask you, how has the energy been since you've been off the show and kind of getting experience from the audience, from Twitter? I know there's a lot of stuff that people have to say about you. How's that been?
No, it was not very fun. I'm not gonna lie to you. When I
Ooh.
when I got home, like it was not like something that was super enjoyable for me. I
Mhm.
didn't get like the most positive reception in the world, which was hard to take. And I always knew that like some people might not like me or like my sense of humor can like rub people the wrong way sometimes. Uh, I guess the thing that bothered me the most was people saying I didn't do anything when I like know that's not true.
Mhm.
So that kind of bothered me. And yeah, I'm not the type of person who like is gonna pretend like things are okay when they're not, you know.
Yeah.
So I was like upset afterwards, but I think that going to the reunion and doing all these things was very healing for me in a way that I kind of didn't expect. And I now have like a lot of good perspective on like the experience and overall just really happy I got to do it.
That's really good. Do you feel like people, like, I guess, were assuming things of you too much, or do you feel like it was just more so like the Twitter fandom that was doing that? Or do you feel like it was everyone in the Big Brother fandom?
I feel like it was everybody a little bit, and some of
Yeah.
it was warranted for sure. I definitely got cocky at times and stuff like that, but also sometimes me being cocky was joking,
Mhm.
and because that's like kind of my sense of humor, and I feel like sometimes people like didn't pick up on that, like saying things that were meant to be like tongue in cheek that got like carried away.
Yeah.
So you know, I was definitely feeling myself at times. I definitely see that. But other times too, I was just trying to be funny, and I feel like people really couldn't tell the difference sometimes.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like in Big Brother, a lot of the things get, carried away when it comes from how people are, viewing it versus for how it's meant to be in the context of you relating to other people in the house and stuff like that. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
exactly. Like you know, somebody better vibing with them, hanging out with them, and stuff like that. And then people who are watching you hang out with somebody make like wild assumptions that just like aren't true. Like
Mhm.
an example, not even like involving me, is like getting home and seeing everybody. Like one of the first questions on my Reddit AMA was like, "Why does everybody love T Core? Like she wasn't doing anything, like or like whatever." And it's like you would have had to live with her to know because
Yeah.
like she's incredible. Like she just has this vibe about her where she like is like a politician, like, and you just
Mhm.
like have respect for her just the way she carries herself. And that didn't seemingly translate to a lot of people on the internet. So
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so before we get too much into Big Brother, I do want to kind of ask you just about you as a human. I know
okay,
like you work with movies and film, and I love movies. If you see my
hell
background, I'm into
yeah,
it.
I love
So,
Moonlight too. Moonlight's one of my favorites.
isn't it so good? Oh my
It's one of
god.
the best movies ever. Yeah, it's so good.
Literally. So tell me a little bit about, I guess, I mean, a little bit of yourself, but also I know you work with film and you work at the movie store.
Yeah.
What got you into kind of that realm of the world?
So I've just always been a big movie head. I've always been like a creative, like artsy fartsy type of dude. And watching the Kevin Smith movies like Clerks and Mallrats and things like that really got
Mhm.
me into film because they're all super low budget and it kind of just demonstrated to me that you can make a film with no budget and just a
Mhm.
good idea and anybody can do it. So I started filming things from an early age and have just always been into movies by proxy. Want to make something clear though, like I do not get paid to work at the video store. Like that is not like a job
Oh.
where I get paid to do it. It's like a labor of love type of thing. I
Mhm.
had an actual like big boy job before I was on the show. I worked in like human resources and recruiting, but that job involved poker.
Okay.
Like we work with different poker rooms across the state of Florida, things like that. I can't talk too much about it,
Mhm.
but I never wanted to really bring it up in the house because poker, lying, deception, things like that. So I really just focused on the video store thing. But that is like a labor of love. It's not something I get paid for.
That's crazy. So, like, you do film yourself as well? Like, you
Yeah.
actually
Yeah, so I do
cool.
like music videos for like local artists in the area and stuff like that. I'm editing my reel right now so I can post on Instagram. People can see my work. But yeah, I've like been filming. Like I was like the director of like the video yearbook back in high school. Like I've just always been into that type of stuff. So yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. We can dive a little bit into Big Brother. What got you into Big Brother, the show, the strategy of it all?
Yeah.
When did you start liking it?
I mean, it was really through like one day I was flipping through the channels and I watched Survivor and I saw it was a season with
Um,
Cochran in it, and he reminded me of myself, like this gawky kind of nerd or whatever. And so every episode I was like, this kid's gonna get voted out. Like, he's
mhm.
he's a weakling like me. But he kept lasting and it made me like be like, oh, like this show's not like all physical. It's like social and it's strategic. And this was when I was like 19, 18,
Mhm.
and then got into Big Brother through that, like found out about Rob has a podcast and everything like that. So I've been like a heavy fan for like 10 years of like
Yeah.
these shows and everything like that. But it was also just something I didn't really want to talk about when I was on there. I didn't want people to know how much I knew about everything and try
Mhm.
to hide it because it's a threat to people. Like Tucker, for example, was just always after Quinn
Yeah.
because he thought he had Big Brother superpowers because he's watched like every season of the show.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how I got into it and just like fell in love with the strategy of it all, honestly.
That's really cool. Do you feel like you prefer Survivor over Big Brother, or do you not have a preference?
Survivor used to be a much better show than Big Brother.
Okay.
Now it's gotten not great in my opinion.
Hasn't it? I agree.
I really don't watch Survivor like that. I think they cast way too many super fans and they
Mhm.
all just talk about the game the same way. I think Big Brother, especially this season, was awesome because we had recruits who were able to like spice up the gameplay and play like completely unorthodox styles. We're on
Mhm.
Survivor, it's just so meta nowadays. Like everybody talks about the resume, everybody just says the same thing over and over. The 26 days, the fire making, there's so much things about it that really have just like kind of lost my love for it.
Mhm.
But I used to like Survivor better as like a television product, but I always felt like Big Brother was a better strategic game.
Okay, fair. I really do agree with that. Getting into your game,
Yeah, yeah.
we
Or
saw
lack
you
thereof.
or lack thereof. No, I mean, look,
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
starting off like I feel like in at least in my opinion, you started
Yeah.
off really strong to me
Yeah.
because there was a lot of things that you were doing in those first couple of days of feeds where you were
Yeah.
like connecting with Angela, who was the first HOH. You were making great bonds with like Cedric and Chelsea. So
Yeah.
it was a very strong start. And then it wasn't until later where that kind of like shifted. What do you
Yeah.
think was different between that first week of you playing versus, kind of the rest of the game? Or do you think there was anything that was different? Or
I mean, it's kind of hard to say because I don't necessarily think that I think week 4, week 5, I was still in a good spot.
okay.
Like when I look at the power rankings for those weeks, like I was still doing pretty well.
Hmm.
I think it was really my last week where I really tanked myself, and a little bit when T Core was HOH too.
Hmm.
But I think that that first week, it was weird for me because coming into the game, I didn't expect to be in the spot that I was that first week. I
Okay.
didn't expect to be the person who everybody was really coming to. And like I wasn't the only one. Like people were coming to Chelsea, people were coming to Quinn that week. Like we were the three who were kind of everybody wanted to work with, which was not what I expected. I expected to be like a social outcast
Okay.
coming into the game. And I made it a point when I was in the game, like those first couple days, I was like, naturally, I'm an introvert. And I told
Mhm.
myself going in, I was like, you can't be like that. Like you have to, even if you know you're interrupting a conversation, just stand right there in front of those people and force them to talk to you.
Yeah.
Like that was literally what I was trying to do. First 2 games, really didn't talk game with anybody, honestly.
Mhm.
The most I would do would be like, I like you, you
Yeah.
know? So like what shifted, honestly, like I think I come off kind of sketchy. Like I think there were things I did in the game that were like kind of sketchy too, that made people like a little uneasy about me. But like
Mhm.
at the same time too, it's like, how am I supposed to expect that I come to Angela with this like genuine alliance, and I'm being so serious with her, so for real, had her back, and
Mhm.
then she blows up on me,
Yep.
and then she does the whole thing with Matt, and then after that's done, he's mad at me, like
Mhm.
because he thinks for some reason I went upstairs and told her to say all that, which I didn't,
Mhm.
and it just seemed like there was kind of heat on me early. And I've seen some criticism of my game that people felt like I was kind of shut off at that point, but that was
Yeah.
intentional on my part.
Mhm.
Once Lisa won the veto, I was terrified I was going to be backdoored because Angela was telling everybody she couldn't trust me. And I'm like, bro, at least in my head, I was like, dude, you've played like 3 weeks of Big Brother in like 5 days. Like, you need to slow down because like you're getting too hot. Like, there's like people are talking about you. I knew the next week that if Mackenzie, Leah, Lisa, or Kenny would have won, my ass would have been on that block.
Mhm.
So I kind of intentionally took a back seat that second week, really, and
Mhm.
thought I was good to go. And little did I know Chelsea like was apparently considering putting me up as a pawn, which
Mhm.
was crazy to me because in my head, like I told her everything. Like
Yeah.
those first 2 weeks, like I was telling her and Cedric everything, and then it
Mhm.
wasn't until like week 3, week 4 where I started to be like, oh, they're not with me like how I thought they were.
Yeah.
Like Quinn told us about the Pentagon and everything like that, and that definitely helped paint a picture to me. But it kind of became obvious at a certain point, even before that, that like Chelsea, Brooklyn, Cedric, and Cam were a thing. They just always hung out with each other.
Mhm.
So whether or not I knew like, oh, they're exactly the Pentagon, it was pretty clear to me that they were a unit. So sometimes I ramble. I got off your like
You're
original
perfectly
question
fine.
so
I
hard.
love it.
But yeah.
No, I understand, and I feel like I do think there was a necessity to take a back seat after that first week because they were acting. Angela was doing a lot, so
Yeah.
so I get it. I just think a lot of people feel like, and even me included, a little bit felt like it was
Mhm.
almost a little bit of an overcorrection. And,
Yeah.
and and I think that's what kind of happened when it came to the further couple of weeks. But my next
Yeah.
question was about like Quinn telling you about the Pentagon and stuff, or you finding out about the Pentagon and stuff.
Mhm.
Do you think? What were you thinking in the moment when you found out that there was this other big alliance? Because there was hints that were given to you, and
Yeah.
then he finally fully told you. So how are
Yeah.
you feeling about that, and what shifted in your game? You feel?
Kind of like I said before, like, and I talk about it in a Cam talk I saw where like him telling me was helpful. I'm not saying it
Yeah.
wasn't, but it didn't take a rocket scientist to figure out Chelsea and Brooklyn are together.
Hmm.
And that means Cedric's close with them. They're hanging out with Cam all the time. The missing piece to that was Quinn.
Yeah.
And him telling me that, I was like, oh, so they're like with you more than I thought they were. And also,
Mhm.
why are you telling me this? Those were like my initial thoughts, but whatever. If you're telling me, cool. Um, and that was when I kind of started to try to move the pieces together with Chemo and T Core to form some type of counter resistance.
Yeah.
But I didn't want it to be Cedric. That was the thing, is that I feel like I was like trying to get the gears turning in their head. And from what I saw, I did, but it kind of screwed me because I wanted them to take a shot at the Pentagon, but literally Cedric was the worst person from the
Mhm.
Pentagon for my game who could have gone home.
Mhm.
But even then, I don't necessarily regret it because I don't think there was anything I could have done. I think the balls were already rolling for him to go home. And for me, it was either jump on or get off, you know?
Yeah. Speaking of kind of like your relationship with a bunch of people in the house, but specifically Quinn, there was
Yeah.
like a it was an interesting relationship because there were times where you guys were kind of like, in a way, it felt like you were trying to one up each other, but also in a way, it felt like you guys were very similar.
Yeah.
How would you describe your relationship with Quinn throughout the game? Was he someone who you felt was a threat, or did you actually feel a true connection with him?
Yeah, so
I
I
guess.
think a lot of people are confused about a
Yes.
relationship and make wild assumptions that like just aren't true.
Mhm.
Like I don't at least for me, I was never trying to one up Quinn. Like
Okay.
I don't care that he's like another super fan in the game. Like that never bothered me.
Mhm.
So just think about it from my perspective. So I make a final two with him. I'm like trying to bond with him. I tell him I'm a super fan, and that's my secret, right?
Mhm.
And then he lies to me about having the power as soon as
Mhm.
I tell him that I'm a super fan. So he's already lying to me. He literally tells me in this conversation, I am a piece of shit in this game. I will do whatever it takes. Like he literally says that to me to my face.
Yeah.
And and so I'm like, oh, you're a snake.
Yeah.
So I never 100% trusted him for that reason. You know, like
Okay.
you literally are telling me that you're willing to do whatever it takes. When honestly, before that, thought he was a nice, sweet kid. Like thought he was going to be loyal and like play this like straight up game. Literally tells me that's not true.
Mhm.
So I was just always shifty with him for that reason. I always knew he was capable of being a snake. So I wanted to keep him around in my head because I was like, well, he'll be the sketchy super fan. And
Yeah.
people will focus their energy on him, and he can take some of the heat off of you for being like a rat schemer, like whatever it is. And my thing with him too was I knew that he would beat me in the end. Like
Mhm.
I always knew that if I went too far with him, that he was so good at the competitions that he could just win them. And
Mhm.
then I don't have a choice, you know? Um, I did, and I didn't always trust him.
Yeah.
Like, so like he would, like I remember one time after he got exposed that he had the power and he
Mhm.
lied to everyone about it. I came up to him in the bathroom while he's taking a shower and I was like, "Hey man, I just want to let you know I don't really care about you having the power. Like it's whatever." And he goes, "No, you're actually pissed. Like I can tell you're pissed." Like it's I'm just like, what is your deal, bro? Like he would just do
Yeah.
things like that to me where I was just like
So
I felt like he didn't trust me.
okay.
So therefore, why should I trust you? You know, I would tell him
Mhm.
like, bro, I'm not throwing competitions. Like I suck at these. And he'd be
Mhm.
like, no, you're throwing them. Like I know you're throwing like he would just basically tell me I'm lying to him. So I just felt like the trust wasn't there with him. Like,
Mhm.
and he's told me he's a snake. I know he's a liar. I know he's got 6 final 2s. He's got too many options that aren't me. So I just wasn't ever sure how to feel about him, and he was a threat. So I
Mhm.
don't feel like we had this like one-upping thing. Like I don't think any of us cared like that there were two super fans on the season. If anything, I think we both thought that was cool. And we would constantly question to each other. We'd be like, why did they cast both of us? Like, this is so
Mhm.
weird. Like, but it like honestly talking game with him and not having to fake like I was not a fan, that were
Mhm.
some of my favorite moments in the house. Just like
Mhm.
talking to him and like being a super fan with him and everything. And the time where I started to trust him was after that veto meeting. There was a lot more happened than they showed when Chelsea got backdoored that week.
Okay.
Chelsea and Brooklyn both got up and pointed at me, and they were like, "Joseph started the collective. It wasn't us. It was Joseph."
Mhm. Mhm.
And I'm getting called out. And so I walked away to the have not room to like be by myself because I didn't ever want to get into any fights with anybody. It was part of my
Mhm.
strategy. So I'm in there and Quinn comes up to me and he's like, "Hey man, I know my days in this game are numbered." And I knew he genuinely felt that way at the time. He thought he was gonna go home. And he was
Mhm.
like, "But I really want to see you win this game if it's not me."
Okay.
And the way he said it, I could just tell he wasn't lying to me anymore.
Mhm.
So like the trust with him started to build, and sometimes me and him would bust each other's balls and stuff like that. And like
Yeah.
but I feel like people kind of took it the wrong way, honestly. Like I love
That's
Quinn.
fair.
Like
Okay, that's awesome. I
yeah,
I also feel like some of it kind of came from, to be frank, Leah. And
yeah,
I do feel like there was dire rooms where you were saying stuff about Leah, he was saying stuff about Leah. You both
mhm,
kind of had this connection with her, and she was
yeah,
like killing it with the charm. Like she had
yeah,
all the boys charmed up. So
for
I think
sure.
a lot of people were feeling like, they were feeling it, and then they noticed, okay, both of them also like Leah. Is that an
I
addition to
think
it?
it's no, I think that's idiotic. I think that's
Mhm.
literally just the most salacious like storyline, and they're like, oh, of course, you know what I mean? I don't think me and Quinn ever thought that either of us realistically had a shot with Leah, like outside the house.
That's
Like, you
fair.
know, like I don't feel like that really played into it. I feel like we would joke about it like
Mhm.
to each other. Like, yes, is that the most interesting thing? And so like that's what people are gonna say. Yeah,
Mhm.
fine, whatever, they can say that, but I genuinely don't think that played into it, at least for me.
Mhm. It's more like you guys' like, or at least your personality. That's something that you would joke about even in real life, and people were
Yeah.
seeing it and kind of interpreting it that way. Basically, is what you're
Yeah, exactly. Like I think that like yeah, no, I think it's silly, honestly, most of it. It's like there's so many game reasons for me not to trust Quinn that I just listed to you of why I didn't trust him 100%.
Mhm.
And even then we were still working with each other. So it's like where was like the jealousy really? Like I
Yeah.
don't really see it game wise. Like I
Mhm.
don't feel like I was ever coming after him. So like
Mhm.
what how was I jealous? How was I trying to like one up him? Like we were both just playing the game. I don't know.
That's fair. Okay, so all of this kind of leads up to the week you were evicted because Quinn was literally the HOH that week.
Yeah.
And up until that point, even despite the, I guess, the perception that people had about you guys, we still thought, or at least I still thought, you guys had a game relationship to where it wouldn't be an issue when it came to someone potentially nominating someone.
Yeah.
And Leah, who you were also really close with, won that veto and she used it. And then you kind of got backdoored in a way. I mean, fuck it. You really did get backdoored because
I
you
mean,
went
I
home.
played in the veto, so technically it
Oh,
wasn't.
okay,
But
yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
So, but what was going through your mind, I guess, during that situation, and then why do you think that it ultimately was the decision that Quinn made, even though you guys were cool in that moment?
Yeah, I think that I hate to say it, I think he kind of got scared. Like I
Yeah.
think that he overpromised everybody in the house uh safety, literally told everybody including myself that they were good that week, and then
Mhm,
put himself in a corner, and then he was like, well, Joseph's not going to win any competitions,
mhm.
so like, what's he going to do if I put him on the block, which I see it, but I just feel like it's like, for me, if I was in his position, like I want to turn the tables. I want to go against the power in the house. Like, let's go against Chelsea. I don't think he realized how screwed he was in the game. I
Mhm.
think he thought that he could win back over Chelsea and Mackenzie by keeping them safe, and then he'd be safe for next week. And he didn't realize that, like, he was already kind of screwed. And his
Mhm.
only way of winning the game was to just power through it and keep backstabbing people and keep going on a roll and try to win some competitions and try to keep his numbers safe. And I don't think he realized that. I feel like
Mhm.
with Leah, she had too many options, right? So like, yeah, yeah, I was loyal to her, but also so was Quinn and Angela. So like,
Yeah.
whatever, like, um, and I just feel like, and I don't. He's told me he didn't care, but I always felt weird with him because he knew I was working with Tucker.
Yeah.
Tucker was against him, and I feel like he thought that that meant I was against him, where that really wasn't the case.
Mhm.
And this is like another argument I have for people saying like, "Oh, you were against Quinn or whatever." It's like I
Mhm.
literally tried to save him that week when
With
Tucker
Tucker.
was HOH.
Mhm.
Like I was putting in work a week before that to try to get Tucker off Quinn's back.
Mhm.
And the live feeders clocked that it worked.
Yeah.
And, I never told Tucker explicitly use the veto on him, but I feel like I was a big part of the reason why he stopped worrying about Quinn as much.
Mhm.
So I feel like he didn't ever believe that though, necessarily. Like, or I wasn't sure at least. And then
Mhm.
so before the veto, I was confident he wasn't going to put me up. And then afterwards, he just started acting super weird. Once Leah used the veto, they both couldn't get their story straight. Like she was like, "Oh, I was tired when he told me, blah 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 blah," and I just had to play dumb with both of them the whole week. And honestly, I was going back and forth in my head the whole week. I'm like, "Are they lying to me?
Yeah.
Like what?" Because it made no sense to me. And I get that my social game was trash that week, and so he felt like, "Oh, this is like another thing." The reason why I should put up Joseph because he's rubbing everybody the wrong way. But even then, I'm just like, it just wasn't a good move for him in any way,
Yeah.
shape, or form.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, not that clearly it wasn't a good move, but I don't think it was that good of a move either. But
Yeah,
it could have been the Tucker thing. I never really thought of it that way. But
yeah,
even with the Tucker thing, I kind of want to ask you, you did kind of have a good relationship with Tucker that you started to build, especially after the Cedric blindside. I feel we saw
Yeah.
you kind of like gain this like brotherhood with Tucker,
Yeah.
and that was your final two. And you were saying like you would go all the way to the final two with him, and even people were getting a little concerned about that. Why do you
Mhm.
feel like you gained such a great relationship with Tucker at that moment of the game? Did you feel alone, or what was going on there?
See, that's another misconception is
Uh-huh.
like me and him were close from the beginning.
Okay,
Like
cool.
it wasn't something that like popped up or anything out of nowhere.
Uh-huh.
So on day 4, they show it on the episode, but I think it's like episode 15 or something like that. It's like late. But on like day 4, he comes up to me and asks about this final two with me.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm like, I said yes, but it wasn't like a hard confirm. It was like, okay, yeah, yeah. But then after I did so terrible in the first veto, I was like, I need this guy. Like he's gonna
Mhm.
win stuff. And we hard confirmed it. And I feel like people didn't really understand our relationship because they look at me, they look at him, they're like, how? But we're like, he's a film major. Like he went to school for
Mhm.
film. I love movies, obviously. We both smoke a lot of weed. We're both like super into Blink 182. We both have a
Yeah.
really immature sense of humor. Like there's a lot of things about us that are like more similar than we aren't.
Mhm.
Obviously he's super ripped and jacked and an athletic monster, and I
Mhm.
am not. But like other than that, we really got along really well. The reason it might have seemed different after the Cedric thing, or before the Cedric thing, was because after he did that shit week 3 at the
Yeah.
veto meeting, I was like, what is this guy's problem?
Mhm.
Like, because the week before he tells me he wants me to work with Quinn. And I did. And I went to him, I told him, I was like, hey, I made this final two with Quinn that you told me to do last week. Like,
Yeah.
and then he's like, okay, yeah, we're about to backdoor him. And I'm just like, wait, what? Like, what is your deal? And then like he does everything like that. He's coming at Cedric, who's like somebody else I'm close with. And so like at that point, I was kind of like, bro, you're fucking everything up. Like,
Mhm.
I can't help you, bro. Like, you made your own mess. Like, you can clean it up. And I was willing to part ways with him, but it wasn't because we weren't close. We were already close, but
Okay.
I was just not going to stick out my neck for him at that point in the game. But he just kept winning stuff.
Yeah.
And once he kept winning stuff, and then the week of the Cedric vote out, like Tucker had very little to do with why I voted out Cedric.
Okay.
Like me voting out Cedric was because I didn't trust Cedric anymore. He asked me to be a pawn. I knew he was lying to me about the Pentagon. I knew he
Mhm.
was lying to me about this final two he had with Quinn, but wasn't telling me. There were so many, and I wanted to take power away from Chelsea. So like everything with our relationship was always like circumstantial for me. And then like sometimes in my cam talks, I would get emotional and I would just talk to the camera. Like I wouldn't have taken Tucker to the final two. Like if
Mhm.
I was in the final 3, I would always choose whoever I had the best chance against.
Okay,
And if I
fair.
thought that was him, then I would go with him. And if I didn't think that was him, then I wouldn't.
Mhm.
Anytime I said like, oh, I think I can beat him in the final 2, it was in the situation where he took me.
Okay.
I was always going to bring him to the final 3 because I always wanted a final 3 of 2 people who I know are going to take me,
Okay, fair.
and to where I don't have to win.
Okay.
If I do win, cool. If I don't, whatever. If he takes me to the end, feel like I would have had maybe Angela's vote, Quinn's vote, and Leah's vote, and
Mhm.
then you only need one more. It was like
Mhm.
kind of my logic. I don't know if that's true now, but like that was kind of the way I looked at it at the time. Like if I win the final HOH, I'll cut him, and if I don't, and he takes me, then so be it.
Okay, you got to explain that a little more. So basically, when you were talking to the cams, because I know there wasn't a lot of time y'all had to talk to the cams,
Yeah.
but I guess us as viewers, as fans of the game, we're taking your cam talks as like final. We're like, okay, shit.
Oh,
There's
yeah,
no one
and
else in the
it's
room.
not. Sometimes you
We're
get
talking.
emotional. Like, I remember
Okay.
there was one time during week 4 or 5, and this is kind of the danger of talking to the cameras, is, like,
Hmm.
at one point at week 4, week 5, I knew Chelsea and Brooklyn were talking a bunch of shit about me, and
Okay.
when I got home, guess what? They were. And so, I remember at the time, I said, I was like, "I'm never voting for Chelsea."
Yeah.
Like, she can, but I'm being emotional. Like
Okay.
like
That's
I'm
fair.
mad at her. I'm upset. Like once you get a clear head and you like really think about stuff, you're like,
Mhm.
all right, I can't take Tucker at the end. Like, what the hell are you talking about?
Mhm.
Of course you're gonna vote for Chelsea, bro. Like, she's so
Mhm.
good. Like, you know, like you just say things sometimes, and you're just like, especially me, I didn't realize how emotional I was, like as a
Okay.
person, until like being in there and talking to the camera sometimes. So sometimes you say stuff just like in real life that you don't mean at the time.
Mhm. I think that's fair. I think it's hard for us as viewers to really filter out the fact that y'all are literally humans considering every single option and the moment. Even Chelsea, like her game gets criticized in a way because she always considers a lot of different options. And,
Yeah.
and I feel like even like with you or the super fans in the game, you, Quinn, Chelsea, who's a big fan, I feel like a lot of the times y'all would say, whatever was on your mind at the time, and it doesn't have to be what's final.
Yeah, and she
Period,
got criticism for that too, where she's like talking on cameras about how like, oh, like I want to keep Quinn safe, and then she's
Yeah,
working to get him out, and people are like, oh, she's lying to us. It's
yeah.
just like fans draw the most hilarious conclusions sometimes, like based off of nothing.
Yeah,
Like,
it's just
and
it's
like, and I have so many examples of that are just like hilarious. Like
uh-huh.
we're all chilling like outside the finale, and if I take a picture and someone's not with us, everybody's like, oh, they're excluding this person. Can you believe them? And like, oh my God. And it's like, bro, everybody got invited. Like, shut up. Like, it's just
Yeah.
like people just jump to the craziest conclusions, and it's
Yeah.
honestly hilarious.
I agree. I think it's harder with like this parasocial situation because I feel like
Yeah,
viewers are so concerned about what they see. They're so used to seeing everything, especially with Big Brother. There's this illusion that we see every single thing because there's this live feeds. But when you're seeing everything someone does, sometimes people are indecisive. Sometimes people
exactly.
consider a
And
lot of
that was
options.
actually, I'm
You
sorry to
know?
interrupt,
No,
but
you're
that was
good.
actually one of my biggest problems in the game is I was indecisive.
Okay. Period.
Where I was very cool with whatever happened at certain points
Hmm.
and was a little too much cool with it. Like, as long as I
Yeah.
wasn't on the block, I was like, all right,
Hmm.
whatever, a lot of times. Like, I'll figure it out. And I
Hmm.
was like that too much, where I should have been more decisive.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So, okay, so when you ended up getting evicted that week,
Yeah.
you talked to Julie and you you kind of had some sass when you were talking about the jury situation. You were like, I would have been in jury normally.
Bro,
What's
I'm sorry to
that?
interrupt. I'm sorry to
You're
interrupt. But like,
good.
that's another thing where fans are just like,
What
oh,
was
he's
that about? That was funny.
well, that's the thing is I'm being funny.
Okay.
Like literally on Reddit every single year, people are like when they reduced the jury the first time, people were literally saying like, "Oh, CBS is cheap." Like why
Yeah.
like they're doing it to save on money. And then I say it and people are like, "Oh, he's ungrateful. Oh, he's so bitter." I'm like, I'm literally saying what the fans say all the time.
Yeah.
Like and I know this cuz I was a fan.
Mhm.
And I'll say something else where I'm like, I would joke about how the show's corny and sometimes like pretty cringy. And people are
Mhm.
like, oh, he thinks he's above all this. Oh, and I'm like, you guys literally complain about the same stuff. But like when I
Yeah.
say it, it's like, oh, this jerk. Like, I think
Mhm.
it's honestly funny. I was just trying to be tongue in cheek and funny. And people took it completely the wrong way.
That's fair. I think even with Quinn, with all the super fans, the fans like it's a hard thing to understand that as a fan watching a fan play, you're gonna kind of get these moments where it's like it's almost too relatable, and so they kind of think it's cringy and shit. And I think that's what was occurring. Like they were like thinking it's cringy, but really that's all the shit they say on Twitter. I
No,
say the same thing. So
I'm
I
literally
get
just saying the same stuff that they say, but I am cool with just saying it to Julie on stage.
it.
Like,
Yeah.
and like, I'm joking. Like, do I
Yeah.
bro? Like, I don't care that I wasn't on jury. Like, it's
Mhm.
whatever. Like, if I'm not gonna win, honestly, being pre-jury, if you don't win, is pretty sick because you get to
Okay.
go to the pre-finale parties and like hang out with all these people and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
you like, I got my head on straight in a way that some people are going to struggle with, just coming out of the house.
Mhm.
So no, I didn't really care that much. Honestly, what bummed me out more than anything, and people also took this the wrong way, where I said that I never feel like I got to play real Big Brother. And
Mhm.
all I meant by that was I never got to play two nominees, no AI arena.
Yeah, okay, fair.
And that, sucked too. And
Mhm.
I think people took that to mean like, oh, he's saying he would have done better if he would have. And I'm like, no, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm
Mhm.
saying is that I wish I would have gotten to play the game that I fell in love with.
Mhm. And that's the thing. People are going to take a bunch of shit the wrong way. Like I feel like it sucks
Yeah,
because
and
you're the one taking it. You're the one getting
yeah,
all of that reciprocation. But
yeah.
you also like in a way it's like you kind of gotta fucking like be okay with the fact that they're gonna take shit the wrong way because they're viewing it. You
I
know?
also don't have the best delivery sometimes. So
Okay, yeah,
I don't think it's
that too.
always like sometimes I do think like I can just come across like the wrong way. And
Yeah.
that's a me thing as well. I don't think it's like all the audience, you know.
Okay, there you go.
I think sometimes I could word things better, but also I feel like people just took me too literal all season,
Mhm.
honestly.
Yeah, yeah. I think fans take shit too literal. I just
Yeah.
feel like that's why I'm glad we're able to talk about it
Yeah.
because when we talk about it, we can clear it up in what you actually meant. I think it's hard. It's very difficult, and I've never been in your position where you're the one literally coming out and you're seeing all these people say random stuff that it's silly to you, but to them it's like weirdly it's very real to them,
And here's the
and that's
thing,
the issue.
I played like an online commentator in a
Yeah,
lot of ways, where I was
yeah.
loud and wrong
Yeah.
and confident in how wrong I was, a lot of times. So, like, I know what it feels like to be
Uh-huh.
that fan who just, like, you think you know what somebody's intention was or why they did this. Like, I read so many like, the thing you said about earlier where it's like, "Oh, Quinn and Joseph wanted to be the only super fan," or,
Mhm.
like, whatever, and it's like, bro, neither of me or him, I think, ever cared about that.
Mhm. Fair. Okay, so I do wanna ask you as a fan, because
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of Big Brother.
Hell
I
yeah.
wanna know what is your opinion on the 7-person jury versus the 9-person jury? Do you give a damn, or
I
how do you feel?
mean, I actually think that I go back
I
and
hate
forth on
it.
it. I feel like for our season, it would have been great just because Tucker and having him on TV for longer. I just didn't understand why they wouldn't. But I
Mhm.
think generally speaking, it probably is better with 7 people.
Why do you
Uh,
think that? I
because
don't think
I feel
that.
like there's always some group think the more people there
Okay,
are.
that's fair.
And so they can kind of just go one way. I say that, and they all voted unanimously. But I feel like a lot of times, like 7 people can like shift it more in different directions or
Mhm.
whatever. And they have more of a perspective on like what actually happened. I
Mhm.
missed a good portion of the game. I made it more than halfway through, but should
Mhm.
I necessarily have an opinion on who should win? Like, I don't know.
Yes. Yes.
I appreciate
I personally no, I do see what you're saying, and I've talked about this with like Corey from last season. He was on for a recap with
it.
us, and we kind of had the same conversation. But I don't know. I feel like there is a amount of game that you or Tucker or people who've gotten 11th place have experienced to where if you're someone who's playing the game and you know that there's a jury that could start at 11, it's
Yeah,
like you've had 50 plus days. I don't know how many days were you in the game? Do you
52.
remember? 52. You've had
Yeah.
50-ish days to acknowledge the fact that this person could be voting you. And to me, I feel like that's enough time to allocate your game towards them. If I was a player and I knew that this person potentially would be voting, I would have I would have made my game in a way to where you were able to understand it within those first days. So I don't know. I go back and forth as well. Well, no, I
Yeah.
don't. I don't go back and forth. I
Oh
think it
yeah,
should be
you have an
9.
opinion.
I think it should be 9. Period.
Hell yeah.
But
Nice.
I appreciate hearing the other opinion as well. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
for sure.
So you talked about how you said to the cameras one time you wouldn't have voted for Chelsea.
Yeah,
And in our like shorter interview, I asked you who would you have voted for, and you did say Chelsea.
yeah.
So clear it up one more time, clearly, right here.
I mean, there's nothing to be clear
Okay,
about.
there's
Like,
nothing to clear.
I would have
I
voted
agree.
always on who played the best game. Like,
And
that
you're a
was
fan, so that makes sense. I don't know
yeah.
why that wouldn't have made
And I
sense.
think you get heated in the moment, but once like like if I would have been in jury house and like had time to like, and even when I get out of the house, Julie asked me who do you think's playing the best game, and I was like Chelsea by far,
Yeah.
it's not even close. Like
Yeah.
so I totally would have voted for her. I mean she just was dominant like in every
Mhm.
single way. Like, and it was I felt like I was taking crazy pills sometimes because I was like, does nobody else see how good this chick is at Big
Mhm.
Brother? Like, oh my God, like she's got y'all like eating out of the palm of her hands. Like, I don't know. It was like almost like people wanted her approval. It's like
Mhm.
what it felt like, and it puzzled me all season. Like,
Do you I want to talk about Chelsea. I love Chelsea personally,
yeah,
but also like watching her play and you experiencing the game with her, it
hmm
feels like I was watching a legend in the making. That might
yeah.
be too far. I don't know. So
No,
I
it's
want to,
not. She's a
from your
legend.
perspective, as someone who played with Chelsea, how do you feel the fans should perceive her game? Because people are confused a little bit. They're like, oh, I don't know.
I don't know what's there to be confused about. She was
Clock it.
amazing. Like
Period.
she literally killed it. Like there's no confusion or
Mm-hmm.
anything like that. She literally was a puppet master. She literally was controlling these people and they were doing her bidding. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't like her social game was like unworldly. Like literally everybody listened to her. The only way I was off of her like week 3, 4, like,
Yeah.
it's like when I was started to come off of her, and I was, like, the only one really, like,
Yeah.
other than Tucker, like, everybody else was like, "Chelsea, Chelsea, Chelsea." When I knew she was a great player, when I really clocked it, was the 2nd week she was HOH, and she was able to nominate Angela without Angela freaking out on her, like
Mm-hmm.
Angela had the week before. I was like, "This chick is smooth." And then she did, like, this speech during the nominations, and afterwards, everyone was like, oh my God, Chelsea's speech. That was so great. Like, she's so great. And then in my head, I'm just like, oh my God, I cannot go to the end with this girl. Like, if you notice, anytime I did the power rankings, I was often very wrong about where I was positioned in the
Yeah.
game. But
Yeah.
I always had her ranked above me. Like,
Mhm.
always. I knew she was better than me. Like, the whole time I was there. It was annoying how good she was at the game. Like, I would just
Mhm.
be like, oh my God, why are people listening to her?
Mhm.
Her physical game, she was like a beast in the comps, won 4 HOHs.
Yeah.
Like her
Very well rounded.
strategy might have been the worst aspect of her game, and it
Mhm.
was still really good. So like I don't see why fans would be confused about her game. She killed it. Like she was dominant. Like she's like Maggie from season 6.
Mhm.
Like she literally was leading these people along and she played a top 3 winning game of all time.
Period. Clock it. I do
Yeah.
agree. It's hard, I feel like, because going your I made like a video about this. I'm like, going your whole life really with kind of the same people in your top 3. A lot of BB fans didn't come until after like
Right.
16 or after Dan. It's like
Yeah.
it's like there's not a new age mastermind who's dominated and then won
Yeah.
unanimously. So it's weird, you
And maybe
know?
it's the fact that she's a woman or a black woman that
Oh,
people
clock it.
don't give her the credit that she deserves and don't see her as a mastermind like they would see a Dan, see a Will. But she
Mhm.
literally was. Like,
Yeah.
she killed it.
Period. I
Yeah.
do agree. And then it's an easy way.
What?
I hate to say it, but look, I have biases. Everyone does. I feel like people need to
Yeah.
like admit that. It's
Yeah.
an easy way for me to give grace to my faves, like you and Quinn. I'm like, I mean, they got taken out by one of the best players in Big Brother history.
Oh, no, literally, bro.
So I'm like, oh,
I
give
like
them
well,
grace.
I know for the rest of my life that anytime she has a highlight reel, like for anything, she's gonna be like, really, Joseph? Really? Like that moment, like I just like know it. And like I'm totally cool with that, bro, because honestly, like I think she's great representation for the show. I think she was a great winner. I think it's about time a we've had a black woman who's won before, but to
Mhm.
have somebody who won in such a
Like super
dominant
shifty.
fashion,
Yeah.
like that's I think great for the franchise as a whole. So
Yeah. Okay, so I gotta ask you, as a
yeah,
super fan to super fan,
yeah.
how hard is this game?
It's so hard, bro. Like
Really?
it is so hard. Like it is I
Mhm.
and like it's so funny because I'll meet fans in person and like they'll be like, "Was it fun?" Like it
Mhm.
looks like so much fun, and I'm like, "That is not the first word I would use to describe this experience." Like I would say stressful, intense. Like for me, it was not a lot of fun. Like I've heard from other people,
Damn.
like Quinn's, like, "Oh my God, I loved it. Oh, it was so great."
Mhm.
For me, I was like pulling my hair out every day. Like
Mhm.
it is such a pressure cooker in there, like truly, and you will never understand unless you're in there because
So
I did it.
So Joseph, if
Yeah.
it was so stressful, all those moments of you being super confident, were you just lying to yourself? What was that? Like are you in the game actively trying to make sure you don't seem stressed? So you're acting less stressed because there was times where we're like,
I
oh, you're
handled it
chilling.
better than most of the people in there.
Okay.
Like I did. Even though it was stressful, I did handle it better than some people. And like I was saying before, sometimes I was really feeling myself, and then other times I was joking and being like tongue in cheek. And I feel like
Uh-huh.
sometimes people can tell the difference. So like it is it's not easy even playing the game I played was
Mm-hmm.
hard. Like if
Mm-hmm.
you really think about it, like I was playing the middle at the beginning between Angela
Yeah.
and Matt. Then it blew up in my face. Then I got to go fly back on the radar. I
Mm-hmm.
got this final two with Tucker, but he's going against my whole majority alliance that I just pulled upstairs into the room to reform.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and now he's going after Quinn and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like the game I kind of had to play the middle was like a stressful situation to be in, even if I thought I was doing well at it. Like, because
Mm-hmm.
I knew that the whole thing was a house of cards, and I would say that in the diary room a lot. I'd be
Yeah.
like, I know this could blow
Girl,
up in
we
my
didn't see
face
your
at any moment.
diaries. We didn't see not
But
one of your
I mean,
diaries.
I know I'm very aware of this, yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm very like, which whatever, but like, I would say things like that all the time in there,
Mm-hmm.
and so, I knew it could blow up in my face at any time.
That's fair.
It did.
Okay. Interesting. It's interesting to get your perspective as a fan, like playing the game, because it's like
Yeah.
we not that it doesn't seem easy. It doesn't seem easy, but it's very hard to understand what it really is. You know what I mean? To actually be
Mhm.
in there day to day and stuff. So that's
Yeah.
interesting to see. So was it too stressful to where you would never play again, or would you play in a heartbeat?
Well,
Ooh.
number one, dude, I'm not gonna get asked back. Like, I'm not
Well,
putting
that's
too much.
not confirmed.
That's not gonna happen.
Okay.
But like, so I don't even like think about that. I'm not even
Uh-huh.
like, I'm not gonna wait for the phone to ring. Like, I'm pretty self-aware. I did, like you said, I was not featured a whole lot on the show, so
Mhm.
it's not gonna happen. In some crazy universe, in the 1% chance they ever ask me again, it would be hard to say no. I
Mhm.
know coming off of the show, I was really like, oh, I'd never do it again. It was so stressful and not that much fun.
Mhm.
And yeah, I would probably say no, but I have no
Mhm.
idea. And honestly, it's not even going to be something I put a lot of mind into because,
Yeah.
like I said, it's not going to happen. So
Yeah. Are you a fan of reality TV? Would you do another reality TV show? Not even like to be called, but like if you were
no,
interested in it, do you think you would?
once again, not going to happen. Like
Oh, please. Look,
I'm not see.
we're
This is the
gonna
thing.
be
Everybody says how
delusional.
delusional I am, but
I'm
I
I'm
am
head
self
delusional
aware.
in charge. We're gonna be
What's that?
delusional right here. So being
No,
delusional,
no, no.
hypothetically, let's say every single reality show wanted you. Which one would you
Right.
most likely to do?
I would like to do the traders. That would be fun.
Ah, okay,
Like
fun.
that'd be fun. Bro, like you saw me in those competitions. Like I'm not going on the challenge or anything like that. So like that is, even if they did want me for some ungodly reason, like how they like put random Big Brother players on the challenge sometimes. So
Mhm,
you're like, why did they bring this person?
mhm.
Like even in that scenario, I would have to say no because I know that I would get embarrassed. So, and I've had enough public embarrassment on national TV.
I feel like, look, it's only embarrassing if you accept it as embarrassing. I don't think you were embarrassing. I was rooting for you the whole time. I'm
No,
over here capping.
dude, I
I
got
was
one of the
there.
I
There
got
was
one of the
we
worst edits I've seen.
Fuck the edit. Fuck the edit. The
Yeah.
real fans watch the feeds, and I was watching. I'm
Thank
over
you.
here like Joseph is. Look, Joseph's higher than Chelsea this week. I don't know.
I know, dude. Like
Did
that's the
you have
crazy thing.
okay?
That's the
Have you
crazy
had
thing.
fans reach out to you, like as fans, like, "Oh my god, I loved you so much." Like, what was the positive?
Oh
Very
yeah.
positive. What was the positive?
Honestly, I'm gonna be straight up with you, bro. Like, have I read negative things about myself? Like, yeah, for sure, but it really has not been that bad.
Okay,
Like
cool.
as far as like what, like I've never. The meanest thing people will say is like, "Oh, you are arrogant. Oh, you're horrible." Blah 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 blah, and I'll just literally answer them back, "LOL," and then like just send it, and like I literally don't care.
Yeah.
I think that's like, I think it definitely at first when I came, like it was like a lot to take, but now I'm just like, whatever. Like it's not a big deal.
So
And most of it is positive. Most people are very nice.
what was the most positive thing you felt? What was like a message you read and you were like, "Ooh, my pussy hurts." Well, not my pussy hurts, but like, "Ooh, I feel good," you know? What were you?
It's throbbing, you know.
Oh my god.
Yeah, you just said that. Anyway, so yeah, like the fans are really cool, and it's cool to like see people be like it's cool to see people be like, hey, I'm an introvert too, and
Okay, stuff
I
like
never
that.
thought that I would ever be on this show. And
Mhm.
watching you go on there and seeing you not be an outcast at first and like
Okay.
doing your thing or whatever and figuring it out, even though you're an introvert, like makes me think I could do the show.
Oh, that's
And I
sweet.
kind of saw myself in you in that way. And that stuff like that's really cool. Like I went to
Mhm.
like the meet and greet yesterday in Tampa and
Mhm.
talked to people who were like, you just made my day, just like showing up here. And I was like, dude, I was barely on the show, but thank you so much. Like that is like so sweet. You know, so like things like that are really cool.
Mhm.
I've also heard some very nice things about myself from production, and I'm like,
Nice.
I thought y'all hated me. Like what the hell? And they're like, no, you were too. I shouldn't even be talking about this, but
No,
yeah,
you're
yeah,
fine. Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah. So just hearing things from a bunch of people, hearing like my
Mhm.
castmates, who some of them were very complimentary about my game, like
That's good.
that makes up for some things that are can be kind of nasty.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so let's say you could go back in time
Yeah,
and play again. What
yeah.
were or even play in the future, what are some things you would change or edit about your game?
I didn't lie enough. I told the
What?
truth. Well,
Interesting.
yeah. I told the truth way too much. In that conversation with Angela, obviously
Mhm.
that's like the big example of it. But there's so many I can think of where people would just ask me stuff and I would just say the truth right away where I really should have just thought about what I was going to say. I have a big
Mhm.
mouth. I think that
Mhm.
was uh it's a problem for me in life. And it's a problem for me on Big Brother. I think that a lot of times I just spoke without thinking how what I was going to say was going to affect the circumstances around me. I
Mhm.
felt like I was too passive at times, where sometimes I needed to like try to take control a little bit more,
Mhm.
and kind of lost some power in some weeks. I was able to get it back, but I feel like I was just sometimes too okay with okay, whatever happens, happens,
Yeah.
and I wasn't enough like no, this needs to happen, and if it doesn't, I'm fucked.
Mhm.
And so too passive, too big of a mouth, probably spent too much time by myself, which was part of my strategy, but
Mhm.
ultimately kind of isolated me from people a little bit to where I maybe didn't have the strongest bonds with some people to like keep me safe.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think I was just too okay with kind of playing like what I felt was a strong floater game. Like
Mhm.
I didn't feel like I was doing nothing. I feel like I was making moves and stuff like that behind the scenes,
Mhm.
but needed to like step out a little bit more, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Did you really I know we keep asking you this,
Yeah, yeah,
but the Dr. Will shit, did
yeah, yeah.
you what was you thinking when you were saying
So
that?
I feel like people. So what I would say was
Okay.
I'm trying to rip off his strategy.
Okay.
Like somebody posted it on TikTok. They were posted this clip of me saying like, "Oh, is this the diary room, Joseph?" And it's me talking about Dr. Will again. And literally in that conversation, I say I'm ripping off his style.
Mhm.
That is what I was trying to say. Was I ever trying to say I'm as good as Dr. Will? No, I'm not
Okay.
delusional. Like I know that he is much more charming, much more handsome. Like I get all that. Like I see it. All right.
Mhm.
And people just took it to me. It was like a game of telephone, honestly.
Yeah.
Like with the way sometimes things would happen. They asked me in the DR, they're like, who do you think you're modeling your game after? This is who I'm modeling my
Okay,
game
fair.
after. Is that to mean I'm as good as that person? No. And I wouldn't think I would have to preface it by
Explain
saying
that.
that because I thought people would understand that, but I guess they
Mhm.
didn't. But I was never trying to say that I was good as those people. I was definitely feel myself at times, but did I think I'm
Uh-huh.
as good as Dr. Dan or Will? I didn't even think I was better than Chelsea when I
Yeah.
was in the house. So like, let alone thought I was as good as those people.
Mhm.
It was more so me just saying like, I'm trying to play a game where I don't win competitions, and that game has merit. And
Mhm.
so I would use him as an example to people to be like, hey, see,
Mhm.
this guy didn't win anything, and
Mhm.
people love him, you know?
It
So like, so if I get to the end and I don't win anything, you should vote for me. I
Yeah.
was doing too much. I can see that now, but that
Okay.
was like kind of my thinking at the time was like, I have to explain to these people what I'm doing, or else if I get to the end, they're going to be like, what did you do? Like, you didn't do
Mhm.
anything, which they
Mhm.
thought anyway, some of them when I came out of the house.
So was
So
that overcompensating or was it like because I think you claim you're not delusional, but it was given delusion, no shade. Like, was it delusion or was it
I'm not saying I wasn't
overcompensating or
delusional. Like
okay.
there were times where I was, like I told you before, I was feeling myself. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie about
Okay.
that.
Okay.
But am I saying I thought I was as good as Dr. Will? No, that's not
Mhm.
what I was trying to say.
Okay, fair. And then okay, this is my last question, and then well, I
Yeah.
have two more questions. So if when it was coming to a lot of the conversation you were having with people, you were saying shit, and the fans would hate me to not ask you, why was
Mhm.
you telling Mackenzie she was gonna lose the game? You was like telling Mackenzie she was gonna lose the game. You was telling Angela
Mhm.
you're going home. You was
Yeah.
telling Chelsea you playing the best game. What
Yeah,
was
yeah.
that,
Well,
King?
I feel like it's funny because the conversation with Anzo was just straight up bad. Like I
Okay,
have no excuses for that.
okay, okay.
I was being an idiot. The one with Mackenzie, I feel like so this is the way I perceived it, and this is
Mhm.
what my thinking was. I'm not going to try to say it was smart or whatever, but this is what I
Okay.
was thinking at the time. Was that the way she opened that conversation to me, at least from my memory,
Mhm.
was nobody wants to work with me because they think
Okay.
I'm a huge threat. That's what she said to me. So what I
Mhm.
said to her was, "Well, I think I would have a very good chance to beat you in the end." Those were my words, and they show that. And it's like if you think that like if you're worried about people being threatened by you and that's why
Yes.
you don't want to work with them, I'm telling you I want to work with you
Okay.
because I'm not threatened by you. And it's like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. I told Mackenzie she sucked. She didn't like that. Told Chelsea she was great. She didn't like that. So it's like I should have switched it. Like, you know what I mean? I should have went to Mackenzie
Yes.
and been like, "Oh, you're great. Oh, Chelsea, you suck."
Mhm.
And maybe then that
Yeah.
would work. But like the thing is, like Chelsea was already after me. Like
Yeah.
after like Cedric vote, like
That's
she was
fair.
already done with me. And that conversation did not make it better for sure. But the nail was already in the coffin. With Mackenzie, it's like I was just trying to tell you, like, hey, I would go to the end with you, which I
Mhm.
would have. And
Mhm.
so it was me just trying to say it like that. It did not come across the right way at all. If I could go back in time, I would just tell her, like, Mackenzie, you're so
Mhm.
great. Like, I would lose to you in the end. Like, I don't care. Like, that's what I should have said,
Yeah.
but that's once again just an instance of me not thinking before I'm speaking.
That's the thing with Chelsea. I don't look. You feel how you feel because you feel how you feel, but I don't feel like the nail was in the coffin, and I feel like sometimes with you there was a self fulfilling prophecy. There were
Yeah.
times where like you would feel, not assume, fuck it.
Hmm.
There were times that I feel like in your mind you would feel confidently about certain things, so you would like voice those things, and it's
Yeah.
like in a way they could be like, even if you're right, because in a few of those sentences you were right. But
Yeah.
it's like even though you're right, there's still a sense of ambiguity that should be left open because everything is not set in stone. There's people who can be convinced and people who can be unconvinced and shit like that. So I think that was like the frustration I feel with the
No, I
fans.
think that's kind of what I said to you before too, where I was like, I was confident and wrong a lot
Yeah,
of times, like
yeah,
where
yeah,
I
yeah.
was confident about how I felt about something and just was straight up wrong.
Okay, lastly, I'm not gonna keep you
Mhm.
for the rest of your life, but
You're good.
lastly, I do want to ask,
Mhm.
what advice would you give to other super fans playing Big Brother, if you would to give any?
Think about whether or not it's made for you, and whether
Okay.
or not like you would actually want to do it. Because it is, like I said before, it is not for the faint of heart.
Hmm.
Like it is very intense. It is very hard. And I would tell them to come up with some principles for themselves before the game and try to adhere to those as much as possible. I think my worst problem in the game was I got sloppy. Honestly,
Hmm.
I think that at the beginning, I was pretty good at tailoring what I said depending on who I was talking to.
Okay.
So, like when I was talking to Tucker, I would try to like pet his ego. When I
Hmm.
was talking to Leah, I knew that you couldn't tell her what to do, that you had to like make her feel like everything was her decision. With Quinn, I would super fan nerd out with him and stuff like that. And near the end, like those instances you pointed out with Chelsea and Mackenzie, that's where I screwed up.
Mhm.
was I wasn't tailoring what I was saying to them.
Mhm.
I talked to people in the game like they thought about the game like me,
Yeah.
and they didn't. And I would try to convince them to think like me, and that was just never going to happen. And
Mhm.
that was naive of me. I was really bad at that near the end of the game. I was really bad at tailoring what I'm going to say to that person.
Mhm.
Like you said before, that conversation with Mackenzie, I should have had a completely different approach to that.
Mhm.
Same thing with Chelsea, but I just wasn't thinking
Fair
because
enough.
you just are so mentally exhausted, socially exhausted, to where the true you does come out sometimes. And sometimes I can be arrogant, and sometimes I can be like you were kind of saying before, really confident in my reality of things and not more open to other possibilities.
Mhm.
So I would say not to have tunnel vision, and to just really think about everything you say in there and how it's going to affect you.
Okay, I love that. Okay, so I mean, thank you so much for joining me. What are some last things you want to leave people if this won't be the last time that people see you, period.
I mean,
Okay?
whatever. Yeah, if it is, that's fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
no, it won't be. We're gonna manifest that it won't
Thank you. I
be.
appreciate it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, guys, I'm probably never going to be on another reality show again.
Stop it. Restart
But
that.
no,
Joseph will let life be life,
no.
and whatever it is. Okay.
No, but I have a good life either way. I think the cool thing about going on Big Brother is that going on Big Brother, I keep telling people, is like going to your own funeral, because you come back and you see how much everyone in your life loves you. You
Uh-huh.
like you like talk to your friends who are rooting for you, your family who is like so invested in you, and all of them telling you that they're proud of you because they know what you've overcome as a person to win this show, or not win the
Mhm.
show, to get on the show and do all this stuff. And like, I am just rich in life and family and friendships. And I know that sounds like cope, but it's just true. And like, that's been the cool part of the experience. Like, I will have something that I can cherish for the rest of my life. And just to be frank with you, I don't expect to be on another show, and that's
Mhm.
okay. You know,
Mhm.
like, I am totally at peace with it now. I know I didn't play the best game. I'm very aware of this. I'm very aware that I was a mids player. But there were times in the game where I was doing well. And to me, there's no reason to put your head down. There's no reason to do any of that. Like, I'm proud of how I carried myself in there. Never did anything problematic or anything that could be even misconstrued in that way. And carried myself in a way that I know my friends and family can be proud of. And played the game I wanted to play.
Mhm.
And, it didn't work out for me, but only one person was going to win. And the 15 rest of us got to have an amazing experience. And yeah, I'm just eternally grateful.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Where can people find you if they want to find you and keep up with you? I guess if you want them to.
Yeah, or if they want to, I don't know. Yeah. I'll be posting on Instagram and stuff like that. I'm more of an Instagram person usually, at Broseph Rodriguez. You can find me. I have a TikTok, but I'm not gonna. And then Twitter also. Like, I will
Okay.
use it occasionally, but like, I'm not like a big social media guy. Believe it or not, Pharaoh, I am not an influencer. I know you were probably confused looking at me, but this was not why I went on the show. I went on the show because like, I love Big Brother, and I got to have
Fair.
like I got to be on like the craziest season ever. That's like the coolest
No,
thing too.
literally.
Like,
This is one of the
literally,
best, in my
I was
opinion.
there and I'm like, this is lit. Like, this is like crazy. Like, like Angela, like, me and her have a great relationship. That's another
Uh-huh.
thing people don't really see, is like, I talked to her on the phone for like 45 minutes the other night, and I'm just like laughing my ass off with her. I'm like, why didn't you ever trust me? Like, what was your problem? And it's like 10 years from now, people are going to ask me, like, what was it like living with that lady? Was she for real? And I'll be like, yes, like, she was.
Mhm.
Like, like, and she was that crazy in the house. Like, so just having all this is like, it's just so cool, dude.
That's so fun. Okay, thank you so much for coming. I genuinely
Yeah, of course,
appreciate
man.
speaking to you. It was amazing. Unlike Joseph, y'all, I am an influencer. Make sure you subscribe
Oh, yeah.
and follow me everywhere at T Reality Kingdom. Also, check out the Scripted Kingdom, where I do talk about movies and film and TV shows if you're interested in that as well. Very soon, we are going to be doing our BB Rewind series in November, when we talk about old season of Big Brother. We are currently on Big Brother 4, so check that out, or whatever, period. And thank you guys for keeping it real with the kingdom. Me and Joseph are out. Bye.